Okay. Thank you for the introduction. It is so great to see all of you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to get on with us today. We have the amazing opportunity to speak with two people that are from Pennytown. So with us today, we have Clarence Lawrence and Virginia Houston. They are brother and sister, and they're going to share a little bit of knowledge about what Pennytown is and a little bit of Black History Month. So again, thank you guys all so much for being here. And whenever you guys are welcome to start, go ahead. Virginia and Clarence, I'll take it off with you about some history about Pennytown for us.
Can you hear? Good afternoon. We appreciate your invite. On behalf of the Pennytown committee, we would like to share some of the history of our ancestors, and we appreciate you having us to do this. It's been a while since I've done a talk with the Missouri Valley College. I've done it years before, but this is my virtual. This is the first time for me, so thank you. And so you can start off with a question or however you wanted to do. We appreciate it.
You could go ahead and start, if you don't mind, just telling us a little bit of history about Pennytown and how it was founded, when it happened, and if it still exists today.
Okay, Pennytown was founded in 1871 by a free slave named Joe Penny. He came here from Kentucky with his master, John Hagan, and he bought the land for $160. He deeded and sold it off to other Black descendants of Pennytown, and he had them to go get a deed because back in those days, people were leery of Black people or colored people, as they called them back then, having so much money. And he told them to make sure they got it deeded and hold on to their deed papers and everything, because they will probably be questioned. And they were questioned a lot by the sheriffs in that area. And but as long as they had their deed, they was okay, and it was their property. They were well-mannered, church-fearing, God-fearing people. They worked hard. They were honest. People always had them to come and do work for them. They worked on other people's farms and stuff like that. The women did outside work in the white homes. They took care of the children for the women. They did their laundry, they did their ironing. And then after they got through doing their day work, they would go back home and have to do their work for them. The people in Pennytown was close-knit. They bartered with one another. They also raised sheep and goats and chicken and geese and rabbits and pigs and everything like that. And that's how they lived. They had a lot of bartering, and they had a creek that they called Blackwater Creek. And that's where they got their fish and stuff like that. And they were, had a school and two churches. The school was Thornley School. They went to school till the 9th grade. And after the 9th grade, they were bused to C.C. Hubbard in Sedalia, Missouri. They had two churches. One was Free Will Baptist Church, and the other one was the Green Valley Methodist Church. And it was just down the hill from the Pennytown Free Will Baptist Church. Also, they had a hall. They had a lodge. They believed in Christ, God. That's what got them through from day to day. And they were family oriented. There's no town left now. Only things left is the church, which is on the National Historic Register. And it was started in 1988 by my mother, the late Josephine R. Lawrence. She did not get to see it come to fruition, but we know that she knows that the church now is rebuilt, and by her efforts and everything that she did to get the church there on the National Historic Register. To make money, to raise money for the church to be on the National Historic Register, we had bake sales, we sold chicken dinners, we had raffles, we had auctions, and we sold cookbooks, and that's how we raised the money to build the church as it is today. And we got 4060 grant for the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and we had to raise 40, and they donated the 60, and that's how the church was rebuilt to this day. Oh, okay.
So do you, I don't know where to join in. I don't know what to say. Where do you want?
I was telling them, I just finished up telling them what we did to raise money for the getting the Pennytown church restored and everything like that. So
Okay.
And I told them about Joe Penny and deeding the land to all the ancestors.
Okay, and buying the land in 1871.
Yeah, I did all of that. Yeah.
Okay. How about a question? Anybody got a question? We can start on that.
You could actually go ahead and talk about, she mentioned that the church that is still standing. So from my knowledge, that is the last building that is standing in Pennytown. So you could elaborate a little bit on that and what it took to keep that standing and why there's nothing else technically still in Pennytown right now besides the church.
Okay. Yes, the church is the last remaining structure at Pennytown. The reason being is in the late 1920s, early 1930s, the people of Pennytown found it so hard to make a living out there, they had to move away. And so consequently, the homes that were there, which were not very good homes, they were homes that were tin roofs and siding, and that they were built from old barns and old schools that had been torn down in other places. So that being said, they didn't survive out there. The only remaining structure is the church, and that's because of the desire that my mother had, our mother had, to keep the dream alive for the Pennytown church, and the many, like my sister probably said, the many raffles and book sales and all that to go to make sure the church was renovated. The last occupants of Pennytown was Francis and Willis Spears, and they left in 1977, I think. Uncle Francis sold his property to Missouri Farmers Association, which is a nearby research facility that owned a lot of land out there. Actually, all the land that surrounds the church was owned by Missouri Farmers Association Research, who have since sold it to another entity. But I guess back to what you asked was there just was any way for them to make money out there. See, so they just had to sell out, move out. They moved to Pettis County, and they moved to Kansas
Jackson
City.
County, yeah, Jackson County, Johnson County. They went to Omaha, they went to Iowa, they went to California, and Nebraska and Illinois.
So they moved away, and the only thing that's standing there is the church. Now you can go around, you can look around out there. I know a fellow, I think he's passed away now, but he had one of those metal detectors, and he used to go out there and find remnants of the old church, or not the church necessarily, but people's foundation in their houses and stuff, the brick foundations, and he'd find like buttons or needles, things like that they use. I don't know how much of it he found, but he did tell me that he found some of that stuff. So he also found something that was pretty cool. I thought one time of the year that he was out there would be flowers growing from around the old foundations of the old homes that he was metal detecting around. I guess one of the things about Pennytown I think is unique is Pennytown was able to survive as long as it did, and we're talking from 1871 to around the late 1930s, and probably up into 1945. And the reason that it was able to survive is because of the ownership of the land by the free slave or emancipated people there. And that was pretty unique. That was not pretty, that was unique for the area, for the inhabitants to own their own land. So that made it pretty good for them. They were able to buy and sell land their own and increase the size of the town. The town went from, I think on the 1880 census, there was about 25 Black residents in Pennytown, and there was about 12 or 13 Black residents in white families, in white households. And then in the 1990 census, that number increased. So you can see where Pennytown was a thriving community. It was a communal community. The fact that they were able to buy land like that, and they shared among themselves food. They gathered food. They gathered gooseberries. They gathered walnuts. They gathered all kinds of different items that grew wild out there, you know, blackberries and all that kind of stuff. And they shared that. They bought pigs from farmers that they had worked for around there, and they would keep a record book on the pigs and the then when it came time for butchering, maybe one family would butcher a male pig and one would butcher a female. And that way they would distribute it among themselves. They also did a lot of did a lot of canning of the items that they would communal live. There's one thing that was I find very interesting about Pennytown. I've done a little research lately, and I've often wondered, where did the people from Pennytown come from? You know, we talk about Pennytown, we think, well, where did they come from? And you think, well, they were slaves and they came from Kentucky and Virginia and Tennessee, and that's true, they did. But where did they come from right before Pennytown, before Joe Penny bought those 8 acres of land for $160? Well, about 2 miles, 3 miles west of the Pennytown village, I guess you'd call it, hamlet, there was a spot of ground over by the Blackwater River. And that ground is where a lot of the freed Blacks had settled. And it was called Colored Town. And the people lived there, and that was ground that the white people didn't want because it flooded over there all the time. But it was a place for the Blacks to go. It was a place for them to go, so that's where they went. Well, anyway, I'm surmising that Joe Penny, he was quite an entrepreneur. I think he got tired of getting flooded out every year over there, and he decided he was going to do something about it. So he bought that 8 acres of land from who's that, John Haggins, I think it was, and then he parceled it out to Blacks over Pennytown, and that was about, let's see, to about 3 or 4 miles east of where they were over by the river. And they sustained themselves over by the river by fishing in the Blackwater River and hunting. They hunt squirrels and they hunted raccoons and all small game like that. The big game, there wasn't much big game left over, but they hunted the small game, and they sustained themselves that way. They froze water in the wintertime and put straw around it, and just like they did back then for water. And so, but anyway, Joe Penny buys this land, okay, and they move over to Pennytown. They establish Pennytown, and that's how the inhabitants came forth, is from that colored town over at the Blackwater River. Now, there's another kind of catch thing in there too. There's a cemetery that's associated with Pennytown, and I've always wondered why the cemetery was not adjacent to the Baptist church that's there presently. All country towns and churches have a cemetery next to them. I mean, that's almost automatic. That's not the case at Pennytown. The cemetery was over near the colored town, okay? And so when they moved, they couldn't move the cemetery, because it was already established. So that's why the cemetery is not at there. Now the cemetery is over near a creek that passes through there, and it's called Fennis Creek. And that's what the name of the cemetery is Fennis Creek Cemetery. I went over there and scraping around, looking around over there, and I found out from a landowner that was driving through there that the people actually used to go down to the creek, and they would have picnics, and they would go over there, and that's where they washed their clothes and everything. The creek is still there. You can see they drive across it. So that's why the cemetery is not located by the churches, because it was already established when they lived in Colored Town. So that's something. I'll stop with that right there. And you want me to talk about something else, I will. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for inviting my sister Virginia and I on the Zoom call to talk to the students at the Missouri Valley College. And I would like to congratulate the wrestling team on their championship. I think it was number 2, came home with the number 2 position from the Oskaloosa, Iowa wrestling tournament last weekend. So congratulations to Valley's wrestling team. And let's see. Also, Pennytown is celebrating this year 150 years of existence from the time that Joe Penny bought that 8 acres from John Hagen in 1871. And this is our 150-year anniversary. And we're hoping to have an in-person celebration on our annual reunion that we have in August. It's always the first Sunday in August. I think that might not happen. I think we might be doing it virtually. But anyway, we will have some sort of celebration to commemorate the 150 years existence of Pennytown. We have a couple of things that's going on. One is a booklet, and it's called Pennytown Through the Eyes of Josephine R. Lawrence. And that booklet is for sale for $10, or if you want to order it from us, and you can do that by going to our Facebook page, Pennytown Facebook page, and you can order it, and I will send it to you for $12, $2 for shipping and handling. So you can do that. Now this booklet has a interesting history. As our mother, Josephine, always wanted to write about Pennytown. She was adamant that Pennytown would not die. And she saved all kinds of records from Pennytown, memorabilia and everything. And during her lifetime, she had a lot of people helping her, people from the University of Missouri, people from the Department of Natural Resources, and helped her get the Free Will Baptist Church designated on the National Register of Historic Places. And I think it was in 1988, maybe. I'm not sure on the date. I'd have to look and see. But she was adamant about that. So she left a lot of records around. And our sons, Todd and John Lawrence, found those records, and they remembered that Mom wanted to write a book at times. So Todd and John got together and got this booklet printed up, and it's really kind of neat. So I would like, I'm pushing this book. So anyway, I'll shut up for a few minutes and let Virginia talk, and I'll think of something else if you don't. Is that okay with you, Virginia? Are you awake?
I'm awake.
I had a question. I don't know if Virginia said this at the very beginning. Are there still services at the church currently?
Virginia?
We have. Okay. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay, we still have just church services once a year at the first Sunday in August is our annual homecoming and reunion. But if anyone would like to have like their meetings, we have had organizations to have their meetings out there, and that was before the pandemic. And we are open to that. All you have to do is contact us, and if anybody would like to get married out there or anything like that, or hold some kind of service out there, we will contact any of the trustees or board members, and we'll be glad to open that for. And we also do tours. So,
what do you guys think was something like being Black History Month? What does this mean to you? Like how Pennytown is still being known and still being talked about all these years later? How does it make you guys feel?
Well, go ahead, Wong.
go ahead, you're fine.
To me, it means a lot. It's our heritage. I can trace my ancestry back to my great grandfather because of my father and mother's insistence on record keeping and talking about Pennytown and the church and everything. And our grandfather is buried in the Fennis Creek Cemetery. I can go over there and put my finger on the marker on his grave, and that's something that some Black people can't do. They can't trace their heritage back that far. Our grandfather was born in about 1836, and that's pretty cool. And I think he probably came to the Pennytown area with Joe Penny. I don't know that. I'm just thinking that they all came and settled that way. But it means a lot to me because I can do that. I can say I know where I come from back that far. That means a lot to me, and it means a lot that people in the area also are interested enough in the Pennytown Church in the area and help us to maintain the we try to renovate. We want to keep the restoration going and all that. And people are very generous in helping us. And just like you want us to speak to your students and all, those are the kind of things that means a lot to me. And also to my sons, it means more to me than anything that I can pass this history to my sons. I'm a 5th generation Pennytowner. They're 6th generation. And my one son, John, has children, and they're 7th generation Pennytowners. And that means, I mean, that means a lot to me. So what about you, Virginia?
I'm thankful. I'm blessed that we can go and share our history and with everyone. It means a lot because you're wanting to know more about Black history. And Black history is not only observed during Black History Month, we should observe it the whole year long, because we have a lot to be told that's not in the history books at all. And we don't want this to die and not be able to share and people know what Pennytown was like. It was different because it was started by a slave, a free slave, and most of the Black communities or colonies wasn't like that. They were, just erected from somewhere else, from a white heritage, and then they went on and did the colony from there. But by Pennytown being unique, by starting by a free hamlet, free slave, that is, and we appreciate you all keeping this history alive, because if we don't tell it, and then it's going to die, and we don't want that to happen. And we thank Missouri Valley College, we thank the community, all the communities and everybody that has supported us in the past, and hopefully continue in the future, because that means a lot to us. And by being the last person born in Pennytown, I hold that special in my heart.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, in case some of you guys didn't know, Virginia was the last person to be born in Pennytown, so I can only imagine. And I appreciate you guys sharing all of that with us. It's very extraordinary, and thank you for your time and everything. Is there anything, just from your guys' standpoint, that you want to share, like your most favorite memory from Pennytown, like growing up or when you were younger, or anything else that you'd like to share?
Well,
Go ahead, Clarence.
Okay. I have a lot of memories from Pennytown because we used to go out. Mom used to take us out there, and when the church was dilapidated, and we'd see all the benches stacked on top of one another, the windows broken out of the church, and the door hanging, and really didn't know what that meant, other than that it was a pile of junk to me back then. But listening to her and going through the years, I know what that meant to her. But one of my favorite stories about Pennytown is hunting. I used to go out there, my friend and I, we used to go out there and hunt. We hunted rabbits and squirrels and quail. We didn't have a bird dog like white folks did. We jumped brush piles. That's the way we did. And Uncle Francis he and Aunt Willa lived out there, where Harry and I used to go out and hunt all the time, and we'd go down, and I don't remember if it was he on the brush pile or me on the brush pile. I think I was on the brush pile, jumping the brush pile, and something jumped up and just scared the daylights out of the both of us. And we ran back to the house, up to Uncle Francis's. Uncle Francis, a lion just jumped out down there, and he laughed. He reared back in his seat, and he laughed, and he said, "Oh, son, that was just a bobcat." So those are the type of things. Hunting, we went out there, and I can remember hunting one time. We ran across a possum, and it took me about 7 shots. If you know anything about hunting and about possums, a possum will play sleep on you, and I thought I hit him, and we'd get up there, and then he'd take off running, and we'd make another shot, and he'd lay down and pretend he was dead. And we did that for 6 or 7 shots before we realized the possum had really outsmarted us. So we went to hunting something else. There's so many. Oh, I'll tell you a good story about Pennytown. I think it's good. Is there's a road right on the north side of the church that was constructed. Uncle Francis constructed this road to get up to his house, and what he did was, there was a shoe company called International Shoe Company in Marshall, and Aunt Willa, his wife, worked at Stampers, FM Stampers. I think it's called ConAgra now, and it used to be called Banquet. They slaughtered chickens. Anyway, Aunt Willa used to come to work, and Uncle Francis would bring her to work. And then in the evening when he came back to pick her up, he would go by International Shoe Company, and they had piles of remnants of the leather that they had used during the day, and it was free for the taking. And Uncle Francis would load up a pickup load of that leather, and every day he would bring back, and I'd say it's about a quarter of a mile distance there, and he made the road out of that leather. Now you can go out there today, and you can dig down about a foot, and you can see that leather. You can get pieces of that leather. And I remember when he did that. That was because we used to take Aunt Willa home, and we had, before he put that road in, that leather on that road, it was a dirt road with the ditches on either side of it. And you try to take a car up through there in the wintertime, and it was not good. You'd wind up in the ditch or something. But Uncle Francis remedied that with the leather road that he put over there. I thought that was pretty cool, that leather road. So that's another thing I could
Can I
think.
ask a question?
Pardon me?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What road is that takes you out there?
Say it again.
What road is that takes you out there?
What?
Like what was the road that he made? Like, is it still there?
Oh yes, it's still there. I mean, grass has grown up over it, and the research people have, done some tilling over top of it. So it's about an inch of soil, about 12 inches of soil on top of that. But it's still there. Yeah, it's still there. As a matter of fact, probably 2 or 3 years ago, I went out there and dug around. I might even taken one of my sons to show him exactly where it was, but it's still there.
Cool. Thank you for sharing.
So Virginia, would you share, not directly related to Pennytown, but would you share the trip that you took and you were invited to, and you were apologized to in terms of slavery? Would you share that story with us?
Yes, Mary, how you doing?
I'm doing marvelous.
Okay. Yes, I was invited to go to Duluth, Minnesota. And Duluth is a town that's trying to rebuild and trying to get everybody to live in unity and love. In the 1920s, Duluth, they lynched Black men up there. One of them was a descendant of Pennytown. His name was Elmer Jackson. I was invited to go up there and in the healing process, along with Warren Reed. And he contacted me because he was writing a book. He was doing his history, and he was writing a book about his side of the family when he noticed that Elmer Jackson was the descendant of Pennytown. So he contacted me, and we made the trip to Duluth. And they had a ceremony, and it was in memory of the men that was lynched. One's name was McHugh, one is Elmer Jackson, and oh gosh, I can't think of the other one, but they all three were lynched. And Warren Reed's great-great-grandfather was the lynch mob header. And in the midst of all of that, Warren Reed has written the book, A Lyncher and Me, and that includes Pennytown and his side of the family. He wanted to do it in a tasteful way so that everybody would know that he wasn't trying to make it look good on his side and make the Black guys look bad. But the reason they got lynched was this woman. She and her boyfriend had gotten into an argument, and she went down the street and she saw these three Black men, and she told them that they had raped her. Well, come to find out they hadn't, but that was after they had been lynched. And so, that's what went wrong down through the years, that white women would say that, you know, they were raped by somebody and then they would get lynched. So we went through up there to have a healing process, which was very, very emotional because I was going to a place I had no idea where I was going. I didn't know anyone. But when I got off the plane, I remember this, Mary. I remember this to this day. When I got off the plane, the pilot, he asked me, he said, "I'm letting you off in Duluth." And I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you know what happened in Duluth?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "One of the men was a distant cousin of mine." He said, "You're a brave woman to be going." And I remember that to this day, those words that he said. And I was afraid when I got there because I didn't know, because after he said those words, I didn't know if they were still, you know, having issues like that. But they were so nice and so warm to me that I just felt at home. In all of that, we did the healing process, we did the ceremonies, and then we planted a tree in memory and in honor of the men that were lynched in Duluth, Minnesota. We were supposed to went back this year for the 100th celebration, but due to the pandemic, we was not allowed to go, but they might do another one next year and it might be virtual. So, but you know, we have come a long ways, but we have a long ways to go because as you know now, things are not like what they used to be. They're getting worse. But we have to pray for harmony. We have to pray for love. And we have to pray that people just start getting together. And the forgiveness, we have to learn to forgive. We can't travel with all this hate in us like we have been doing. So we have to learn to forgive and let go and let God. And so we can do that. And if anybody would like to order the book, The Lyncher and Me, it's available on Amazon.com. And I know he'll be glad that people are reading it, but it tells the story. So that's one of the things I can share as one of the people, descendants of Pennytown, was lynched in 1920.
That feeds into another question that came to my mind. We like to think that things weren't as bad here as they were some other places. That's not really true. And with Jim Crow coming into effect, including in Missouri, not too long after the founding of Pennytown, I'm wondering how relations were between the residents of Pennytown and and the white people around there.
The relations between the white and colored people, as they said back then, what we call them blacks now, there was good because they knew they were hardworking people. If they wanted somebody from Pennytown to work for them or needed them to help, they would go uptown on the square and on Friday or Saturday morning and meet with them and everything. And they trusted the people from Pennytown because they knew they were honest and God-fearing, and they knew that whatever they did, they was going to do it from the heart, and they was not going to try to steal or get over on them one way or the other.
I think one thing that contributes to that too is because, as I mentioned earlier, the inhabitants of Pennytown owned their own property. So they kind of had an edge there, you know, and it was communal living, and they could sustain themselves. Although they were, like my sister said, they were good workers, they were farmers, they were laborers, and they were housekeepers, that sort. But they had an edge by owning their own property. I think that's what made things a little nicer or a little easier in the relationship between the two groups of people. Another thing is that it was rural, you know. If it had been in the city, I think it might have been a little different living, but it was rural, and the people of Pennytown were needed. They were needed for their skills that they had. So, but people got along. From you know, there was obviously some conflicts, but I can't remember my mom and dad ever talking about any really bad things going on at Pennytown. It was all pretty nice, you know. You could say it's pretty nice, but it was they didn't talk bad about Pennytown and the relationships that they had with the people around there. So I don't know. It was a lot different. I want to tell a story if I got time. It's about one of our relatives. It was a great grandfather on my mother's side who in forget the 19 anyway he signed up. It was in the Civil War. Okay, I got it now. It was in 1863. 1863. Now remember that, and I know you guys know history more than I do, but you know, in 1861, what the Civil War started in 1861. Am I right? Okay, 1861, the Civil War started. And in 1863, things were getting a little. The South was kind of getting an edge on the North, right? And the North, they needed bodies. So what did Lincoln do? You know, he freed the slaves, right? And so then that's when black men were allowed to go to the army. Well, they needed people. Our great grandfather signed up to go to the army. We have his enlistment papers, or copies of his enlistment papers, and he signed up and went over to Fort. It was a fort, and it wasn't Leonard Wood, I don't believe, but it was a fort over in eastern Missouri that he signed up. And then he was transferred down to Louisiana to a colored troop in Louisiana. And then he got out, you know, he served 2 years and then he got out. And we also have his discharge papers that said that. And I think that's that to me is pretty neat because when I see history programs or read things about history, it resonates with me because I can say, my great grandfather he joined the service back then. He probably was somebody that cared for the horses or brought water, or, you know, that's all some of the things that they were allowed to do. But it's a place and time that I can say, you know, that means something to me that happened back then. I see some of these Western movies or these documentaries on television, and they talk about that time, and I'm thinking, Grandpa was there, you know, and that's back in the 1863, and that's a long time ago. But that, you know, that's a Pennytowner right there that was involved in the Civil War. He's buried in Finnish Creek, so that's something else that just stuff that crossed my mind.
And I would also like to say that we have descendants of Pennytown that were Buffalo soldiers.
Yeah.
And so even though Pennytown might have been a small communal hamlet, they were well educated. They did things that out of the ordinary that normal people would do and everything. And they went on to be successful in things that they did. And we're proud of them, all of them.
And I think it's important as well for the historic record that you have those enlistment and discharge papers, because a lot of those kinds of materials were destroyed at one point many years ago when the National Archives in building in St. Louis burned.
Yeah.
So So you have materials that may not exist in other places.
That's true. You know, and we need to give thanks to a lady that Virginia knows, that's a white lady that actually provided that material for us, didn't he? Isn't that right? Well,
Andrea Hatfield.
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yep,
She was,
she helped me so much when in Marshall and everything, and I appreciate everything she has done to help us with find things out about our ancestors and everything. And
She's on this call.
yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello,
Hi, Virginia.
How you
Hi.
doing, babe? How are you?
I'm
Thank you.
good. How are you? And yeah, it was a real,
I'm doing good, thank you.
yeah.
You know, I appreciate everything you've done and help us.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, it was me, but also Marvin Wilhite out at the library.
That's
that
right. Yeah.
He kind of got us onto those records, and so it was just a real pleasure finding all of that. That was in the I can't remember what it was, but it's in the Missouri, something about the provost marshal or something like
Yeah,
that.
right.
record
Yep. Right.
online.
Uh-huh. Yeah, y'all
So,
worked real hard on that. So
yeah. So it was a pleasure.
and we appreciate it. We really do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
we have a lot of people that are interested in the history of Pennytown and come to our functions and provide us with materials that we didn't know existed. And it's interesting to me how many white friends that we have that support the Pennytown and know almost as much about Pennytown as we know. There's a lot of farmers around there and that I've talked to, and they said, "Yeah, I know such and such. You know, used to work for me, or that sort of thing, or they lived next to me. You know, that sort of thing." And it's kind of interesting. The more you get out there, the more you find out how much information is. Because Pennytown was the largest Black hamlet in Saline County. I'm sure Virginia mentioned that earlier, but it was the largest Black hamlet, and it had a population of about 200 people at one time, you know. So that was quite a input to the communities around. So
I would
we're
say Marvin Wellhite knows more about Pennytown than I do.
I would just like to ask if anybody would want to help keep the church up or just help you guys. Is there any way that they can donate, or where could they go? Because we do have about 38 people here today. So I'm sure that some people might want to find more information or help in any way they can. How can they do that?
We have a website called Friends of Pennytown.com. We have a Facebook page, Friends of Pennytown, and there's information on there where that they can donate to our cause, to the renovation and the maintenance of the church, or they can send money directly. If I think I'm not sure. I see one of our boys on there now. John, is the PayPal thing hooked up, or do you know?
It is, and just a correction, the webpage address, you can get there if you type in Friends of Pennytown on a search, but the actual webpage address is pennytownchurch.org.
Oh, okay.
And in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. There's also information that tells the history of Pennytown, tells about the church. There are some pictures we're actually adding to that website as we go. And then, as my father mentioned, we do have a Facebook page. You can search for us, Friends of Pennytown, as far as on Twitter and Instagram as well. And so we post in all those and send the links out. But yeah, any donations that are given, those all go for the upkeep of the church.
One last thing, not one last, but one thing, Margot, is Pennytown is a 501c3 entity, and your contributions are tax deductible. When you send that out, I will send you back donation, a thank you with that on there, so you could use on your taxes if you go that way with taxes. So It is tax deductible. All your donations are, and every penny goes to the restoration of that church. There's no paid board members or anything. Every dime goes to the restoration of that church. So.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. If you guys could share anything, just to the people that are here right now or to the younger generation about Black history or keeping up with learning about your history, what is one thing that you want us to know and to remember in our hearts, like as we go forward in the future?
Well, I think what we're finding now is that we're finding more young people that are interested in Black history, and Pennytown is a way for them to find out more about, you talk about local, about what was going on in Saline County back then. We have in our family, our young people in our family, because I'm sure our mother and father said the same thing when they got our age. Who's going to take over? Who's going to take over Pennytown? We were saying the same things a few years ago, and now we're finding that the young people in our family are stepping up and wanting to continue. And I think you'll see that more with people that are wanting to know more about the heritage. Especially in this time, what times are right now, people are wanting to know where they came from, and it's easy to find locally. That information is here for people in Saline County, Blacks in Saline County that came from the largest Black hamlet in Saline County. That information is there. It's also down at the University of Missouri. What's the name of that library, John?
It's Ellis Library. The Missouri Historical Society actually houses my grandmother's papers. So she donated a good portion of her collection to them. So you can look for that. It's called the Josephine Lawrence Historical Collection.
And the Marshall Public Library has also in the genealogy room. And it also has the information for the Thornley School also.
And Clarence, you had a picture of the book about Pennytown. I know you shared it earlier, but just in case anyone missed it, that was about Pennytown, if anyone's interested in reading about that. I believe you guys mentioned to me that it was words from your mother, and so they were direct things about Pennytown that came from someone from Pennytown.
Yeah, in her words. They're her words. And John, up in the my right-hand corner, and his brother Todd, I think Todd is probably listening in from Minnesota. They're the ones that did this book, and we're really proud of them for that. And we're selling this book for money to help out with the restoration and maintenance on the church. So it's $10. If well, actually, let's just say it's $12 because you'll have to write me to get it. But it's $12, and I'll mail you a book out along with a thank you note that that acknowledges your contribution.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. Does anyone? We can open this up to a question and answer. If anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask, I think now is a good time to do so.
Hi, this is Vera. I was calling Mr. Lawrence and Miss Virginia. Thank you so much. I was need to get off to attend a meeting, wanting to get the information of how we can reach Mr. Lawrence to get the book.
Okay, my name would be Clarence Lawrence. My address is 5101 South Cedar, Cedar, Crest, that's 2 words, Court in Independence, Missouri, 64055. And if you want a copy of the book, just send me a check for $12. Make it to the Friends of Pennytown Historic Site, and I will send you back a book.
Thank you so much. That was great information. I've been to Pennytown many times and didn't know all the history associated with that.
Yeah, that information is also on our Facebook page and website, if for somebody that didn't get that. But
Okay, thank you so much.
we've got lots of books to to sell, so we appreciate anybody that does it.
Does anyone else have any more questions?
If not, Brian, do you mind doing the closing as the library director?
Sure. I just want to, part of our mission is, of course, to keep the local history alive. And so I really appreciate this and thank you very much.